This is the only sales podcast you'll ever need. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 227th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. If you missed last week, go back to saleswhisperer.com/session 226. I've got Mark Podolsky and Scott Todd, the Land Geeks. Great story about a couple of corporate America types who were frustrated. They were actually making good money in corporate America, but they were dissatisfied. And Mark started the business. Scott actually became a student, then became a partner. Inspirational story, two really honest, laid-back guys, very open and transparent. And their approach to investing in land is worth studying and looking into. Very unique, very proven, and it can be a great alternative for you in crazy times like we're kind of having now, and even in sure times. It's nice to have a little bit of diversification, especially when it comes to land, because, you know, they say they ain't making any more of it. So check that out. Today, we have Anthony Iannarino. Cool guy. He was actually got a great referral, great recommendation online from a friend of mine that I trust. Anthony's got a new book out we'll talk about. And based solely on that recommendation from a friend online, I reached out to Anthony. I liked what I saw, and I had him on. And I'm glad I did. He was a great guy, full of wisdom, great information that I think you will really like. Something else you will really like, I'm in a giving mood. I don't know what it is. Just got back from visiting the family, hadn't been there in years, brought 6 of my 7 kids and my wife, my sister, her 2 boys, and went to Mobile, Alabama, saw my daddy, went to Baton Rouge, had a little family reunion, got me some oysters, some boudin balls, some gumbo, some red beans and rice. It was, oh my goodness. Whoo. But anyway, I just started the 7-week, 7 live calls with the Art of the Close. And when people enrolled in that, you also got access to the Make Every Sale course. And that was a big discount because I offered the live calls for less than I actually sell the Make Every Sale course. And with both of those, you get lifetime access to the programs, to the courses, and to the private Facebook group. So here's what I'm doing for podcast listeners. And I set this to go until February 14th. So love is in the air, right? So take advantage of it while you can. But if you go to makeeverysale.com, scroll to the bottom and on the Buy Now button, you will see a price that is not cheap, but it is affordable. It is certainly worth the investment. But, when you go to checkout, if you enter podcast in the promo code area, you will save $1,000. And that will give you the Make Every Sale access. That will give you access to the Art of the Close the next time that I do it. And you're welcome to join in. Like I said, it's at least 7 live calls. We'll probably do 8, maybe 9. But you can jump in when we're going to do those every Thursday for the most part. I can get you the schedule if you're interested. But anyway, it's a live interactive call workbook. But again, go to makeeverysale.com, enter promo code podcast at the checkout once you click on the Buy Now button, and you'll save $1,000. I don't know how else to help you sell mo better this year than to do that. Here's what I could do. I could give you some advice. Here's a little... I don't know if it's going to be a trend. I'm certainly reading a lot more, but that's not the trend. The trend is talking about the books that I'm reading on the episodes. I will be reading a lot more this year. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks. I've never stopped doing that. Listen to a lot of things, from good old Zig Ziglar and others, and I recommend you do the same. But you're listening to this, so you're doing it, so kudos. But I'm actually going through and rereading a bunch of books on my bookshelf. They say you only retain 10% of what you read. Now, I feel like I retain more than that. I take a lot of notes. I rarely ever read a book and just read it and put it down. Usually it takes me a while because I'm taking notes. Usually I write in a notebook or legal pad and I rip those pages out and stuff them in the book. Sometimes I'll take those big sticky notes and stick them in the back and take my notes on there. But I'm going through my old library, which is quite big. But something that I've re-picked up is called Pendulum, Roy H. Williams and Michael R. Drew. I haven't met Michael. I've met Roy many times. He's down just south of Austin. He's the Wizard of Ads. Very smart guy. I've been to a bunch of his workshops and conferences. And I actually got into sales training because of him, because Steve Clark was a partner of his and actually taught a 12-week sales training course, similar to how I've modeled my 7-week, The Art of the Close. But anyway, this book, Pendulum, talks about cycles that we as human beings, as societies, go through. And he says, Roy and Michael talk about a 40-year swing. And basically, if you know where we are in the pendulum, you can begin to predict how people will act. Okay, the subtitle of the book is How Past Generations Shape Our Present and Predict Our Future. And it's really very accurate. He went back thousands of years in his studying. So that's just to help prove the point. Okay, but he talks about how 2003 was 1963 all over again, except we were moving in the opposite direction. And he talks about the similarities in 83 and how we were acting in 2003 and how we acted in 2013. And he talks about how we're moving into 2023, which is the next tipping point. But he breaks it down into the me's and the we's. Okay, me is the individual, unique and special. We's. We are the group, the team, the tribe, the collective. And so we're in that now. Okay, 2003 to 2023. So this is another upswing of that pendulum. Okay, and when you understand how people are as a society, and when you look at how, the make love not war, 60s generation, then you look at the yuppies and the BMWs of the 80s, right? And you see the dot-com implosion and how people responded in 2003 and how millennials are acting and how they're not as money motivated. They're looking for experiences and fulfillment. This book will really help you begin to understand what's happening, how to take advantage of it, and what's going to happen, which really lets you take advantage of it, how to position yourself, maybe how to change your marketing. Do you find yourself complaining, bemoaning, or just curious as to why marketing today isn't working like it did yesterday, the previous year? If you have questions like that, this book will help. Now, unfortunately, I just re-picked it up last night. So I only got through a couple dozen pages, so I don't have enough to really tell you. But over the next couple of episodes, I'll be digging into this, and I'll have some notes, some thoughts for you on it. But, I always talk about in my sales training how predictable people really are. They're predictable individually. Okay, I can tell you how somebody can react based on how you treat them, the questions that you ask. People are predictable. They can tell you how you should treat them, how you should handle a certain situation based on how they answer the phone, how they greet you, how their office looks, how their card looks if you happen to see it, how do they dress. They tell you a lot. So individually, you can tell if you tune in, right, and you're perceptive. But as a society, we are predictable. And so, like Wayne Gretzky would say, right, skate to where the puck is going. You need to position yourself where the market, where the economy is going. So that book, Pendulum, will help. Go ahead and check it out. I'll link to it from the show notes here. You can get the notes at thesaleswhisperer.com/session 227. You'll also want to get a copy of Anthony's book, which we'll talk about. And then I'll be linking to the Frogman Swim, the Tampa Bay Frogman Swim. When this episode goes live, this is going live on the January 16th, 2017. I will have finished the swim. It's going to be on the 15th. So I'm getting this done early because I'll be flying home when this goes live. But if you want to donate to that and help the families of fallen Navy SEALs, try to get their lives back together, you can do that at helpwestswim.org. That is on every episode. You can link to it there and donate. Okay? So thanks for listening. Now, without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Anthony Iannarino. You can't trick me on that last name. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see your backdrop there. I saw one of your blog posts. It said, "This is where I write." So it's good that you're consistent. So you're not faking things, right?
No. This is home. All
right. That's why you're on the show, man. Keeping it real.
This is the anti-library.
That inspired me because, so I don't know, maybe been a year now. I don't know. I was on a trip. My wife, my daughters, they come in, redid my office, painted everything, cleaned it up, but they took like 80% of my books off my shelf and put them in the garage. So like it looks all nice and neat, but I'm like, oh no, I need my books back. So seeing yours, it's inspiring me to fill my shelf back up.
Yeah, it looks nice.
You got
Plus, anytime I want anything, I can just reach behind me and grab it and
I know.
Read whatever I want.
You got the Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged over your right shoulder. Very nice. Was that
interesting
strategically
book
placed there or just happenstance?
No, it's on this side, we start with the American Revolution and military history. And then this, we get to politics and biographies and libertarian thought. And then as you get lower, you just have a whole mess of all kinds of things that don't really fit into any categories. Then you've got business. And then you've got leather-bound literature and classics, including all of Shakespeare and stuff like that.
Very cool. And then a bunch of your own book over your right shoulder as well.
I got a bunch of those. I've read it, though. So those will be going out signed. That's so I can sign them and then just hand them off so they get shipped.
Oh, I keep a bunch of mine just to look like people actually want them.
Yeah.
So, but kind of like the Dangerfield, my dad used to hang a pork chop around my neck just so my dog would play with me. So
love Dangerfield.
Yeah. So, man, a mutual friend. I have to confess, I never heard of you, and I start digging in, and I'm like, you're big time. And a mutual friend said your book, and I just misplaced it. Where's your book? It's in small print. The only sales guide you'll ever need. And he's and it just came out, right? October?
October, that's right.
Yeah. The only sales guide you ever need. And my buddy posted, I was like, what? That's a strong title. That's a strong endorsement. So I'm like, I got to have the guy on the sales podcast. You own thesalesblog.com. I was like, how do I not know this guy? So thanks for agreeing to come on the show, especially over this Christmas, New Year's break.
The internet is like outer space. I mean, you can go a long way and not run into a lot of things that other people know. It's a big space. Even though it's crowded and there's just more and more content, it's not easy to see everything. Obscurity's still easy, even though you have the toolkit.
I know. I mean, I know I've had like Tom Hopkins on. I've had Anthony Parinello, and and I'll talk to people. I'm like, hey man, I got the Selling the Vito guy on. They're like, yeah, I haven't heard of him. What? So
yeah,
we just think we're famous.
Most people don't read books anyway.
I know.
I mean, that's just the sad truth. And salespeople don't read a lot of books.
Yeah, I know. So, man, what's your history, huh? I was digging into you a little bit, and looks like you're a man of many talents, law, literature, staffing, faculty. I mean, good grief. You were almost a rock star, right? So how do you go through all of that and end up in selling?
Still am. I mean, in my own mind, right? Yeah.
Are you still an attorney? We may have to end this conversation.
No, I never took the bar.
Oh, okay. You just studied law.
I studied law. They gave me a scholarship, so I went to school, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was super political at that time, and that was a lot of fun for a guy who didn't need a job leaving law school because I could just argue the whole time. And people would say, you're going to fail this class. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to fail anything. They love having somebody to argue with, especially constitutional law, because I'm a bleeding heart libertarian. So as a bleeding heart libertarian, I'm on the wrong side of every court decision that's ever been made by the Supreme Court. So it's just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And I got to selling because I had a mentor who recognized that I was already selling, even though I would have never said that's what I was doing in a million years. Mm-hmm. And he forced me into outside sales, and I won a $10 million account right out of the gate. And it felt good. And
what
staffing.
Okay.
Yeah, staffing in Los Angeles, early 1990s.
So how did you win that? Was it luck? I mean, right place, right time? Was it beginner's luck? Did you actually have a strategy?
No. I picked up the phone.
Yes, beginner's luck.
I don't know if it was beginner's luck. I mean, I would say in that particular case, I succeeded in spite of continually screwing up along the whole way. I mean, from bullying the administrative assistant to the executive that I was calling on for an appointment, and eventually having her pass me through and having an angry guy on the other end of the phone because I was so rude and pushy. I was a really good salesperson when I wasn't selling. And then once they made me a salesperson, I got awful. I mean, it took months of me being awful before I realized selling wasn't something that you do to somebody. I mean, that's what I was trying to do, things to people. And I was at the right place at the right time, showed up way out over my skis, smart enough to bring in my manager to help me, and ended up winning it, but not because I was so good at it. Absolutely not.
So what did that manager say when you got on the phone with him? Because bullying executive assistants is usually a sure way to get your butt kicked.
Yeah, this is not the greatest story to start off with, Wes. But
that's why we're going there.
So what he said was, "Why is my administrative assistant crying?"
Whoa.
Yeah, and I said, "I have no idea." Yeah, it was really, really an ugly start.
And he still saw you and still bought from you.
Still saw me. Well, he bought from me and from my boss. I was way out over my skis. It's $10 million. It was 500 temps a day. I mean, It was way beyond what I was capable of doing on my own. But that's the way you learn, right? I mean, you have somebody who you go and you watch and you start modeling their behavior. This guy was a really good salesperson, and he was very quiet and very cerebral and listened a lot and asked really well-placed questions. And I was, I guess, most impressed right out of the gate because if you were to look at number of words used to actual revenue, he probably has the highest score of all time. I mean, few words, lots of wins. And that worked for me. Once I figured out what he was doing and he showed me, it was a lot better than what I was doing. I was reading people an 84-page binder from beginning to end.
It was only 84 pages. He must have given you the beginner's binder.
It was a big binder.
So, yeah, I always tell people, as salespeople, we're in charge of structure, and the prospect is in charge of content, right? So it sounds like your manager kind of followed that same path.
He was more interested. Basically, one time I read this binder to this woman, and he was on a sales call with me, and he did a really good job as a coach. He didn't take the call over, even though I could tell. I mean, he kept continuing to look at me in a way that wasn't suggestive of me doing a particularly good job. And we got to the curb where we have, the post-sales call conference on the way to the car. And he said, "How do you think you did?" And I said, "I think I did pretty well. How do you think I did?" And he said, "I think you should be brought up on charges for cruel and unusual punishment. That woman is in a catatonic state, and I don't know if we're ever going to be able to bring her back to life." He said, "You practically killed her." He said, "Nobody cares about what's in that binder. They just put it behind their desk, so if somebody comes along and asks them a question, they've got something that looks like they did their homework. They only care about the 3 or 4 things that they care about, and that's all they really want to talk about."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Just go on calls with me and you'll learn." And I went on calls with him and I learned.
All right, so let me ask you something. This guy was obviously good, but why did he let you go out so unprepared? Did they not have like a formal training program back then?
No.
Okay.
No, there was no formal training program. But no, it was worse than that. So he comes in as a new manager, and he has 3 salespeople who are not doing well in sales. And they eventually are all fired. And he comes to me with a list of clients, and he said, whose clients are these? And I said, these are my clients. And he said, how did you, meaning somebody who had a ponytail down to his waist, fronting a hair metal band at night, how did somebody that looks like you win these accounts? And I didn't know I was selling. Basically, temps would come in, I would interview them. I knew where they were working in the past, so I knew who else used. And when we didn't have anything to do, I did what I did in a family business. I just picked up the phone and made some calls. I asked some people if I could come and meet with them. Some of them said yes. I talked to some of them. They told me what their problems were, and I tried to help them. And some of them gave me their business. I mean, I wasn't selling. In my mind, I wasn't selling because I wasn't trying to manipulate anybody. I wasn't being pushy. I wasn't self-oriented. I certainly wasn't collecting a commission on it. So I was just out trying to be helpful. And then when they said, you're a salesperson, then I started behaving badly because now I have to do things.
You became self-conscious, huh?
I became awful. And it took me months. It took me months of being awful and learning. I mean, because that's how you learn, right? You go out and you make calls and you get feedback. And the great thing about selling, the feedback happens immediately. I mean, you're getting the feedback. You know what's working and what's not working immediately if you're paying attention, and you start making adjustments. Right. And you see, this doesn't work, so I have to change my approach if you're thoughtful at all.
Right. Okay, so rat or poison?
Neither. Oh my gosh.
You don't like rat?
No.
Come on.
No,
city
man,
to
I'm
city?
old school.
City to city?
Not my thing.
Oh my gosh. All right. Man, I don't know. Van Halen?
Yeah, Van Halen.
With or before or after Sammy Hagar?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
All right. You're kind of redeeming yourself. All right.
Yeah, both for sure. I mean, David Lee Roth, greatest entertainer of all time. And if you're not listening to his podcast, you're totally missing out because it is just good fun.
I don't think I realized he had a podcast, but I will type that in right now.
You're going to have to find it.
All right. And it's current?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got to find that. All right. So how long were you with that guy? How long were you employed with him? Was it like a long career and you're still in staffing, right?
Yeah, still a family business. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was with him for 5 or 6 months.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, I had a grand mal seizure walking up the steps to my Brentwood apartment, and I never collected a penny of commission off of any deals that I won while I was selling.
Oh, my gosh.
I moved back to Ohio where I had a group of arteries and veins called an arterial venous malformation removed from the back of the front right lobe, which is the giant scar on my head. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't allowed to drive for 2 years, so I couldn't go back to Los Angeles because you can't live. LA's not like New York where you could not have a car, but you have to have a car there.
So what'd you do?
Went back in the family business, did that for a few years, freaked out, decided to go to college, started college at 26. So I went to Capital University, graduated summa cum laude because I started college at 26, so it was easy to have a nice GPA that I would not have had I started when I was 17. And then got the Dean's Scholarship to law school, went to law school all the while working and growing the family business.
And what was the family business?
Staffing.
Oh, okay. So you were kind of exposed to it growing up, and then so in L.A. you're trying to make the music scene and putting food on the table by doing what you knew, which was staffing?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it worked out great. I mean, I had a day job, so I worked 7:30 to 4:30.
Right.
Rehearsed at night. Went out and played on the weekends. It was it was a good plan. It worked really well. I lived in Brentwood, and I had a rent-controlled apartment. It was perfect.
Very nice. So did you just take over the family business, and that's what you still run in the staffing?
Yeah, no, the family's still in the business, but yeah, I still have ownership and I still have a leadership role in that business. A couple businesses, actually. We just started a third.
Okay.
A third firm, yeah. So I still have that. I came back and the business was doing well, but having worked for a $4 billion company, I came back with different ideas about what we were capable of doing.
And was the family open to those ideas?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. And so how do you make the shift from working in a family business to author, USA Today bestseller, keynote speaker? Because, I mean, most people hunker down in their little family business and just stay there forever.
I'm not most people in that regard.
So how did you make the shift?
Because people started asking me to help them, and I resisted it for a long time. And then I started doing some coaching and helping some people, and then I decided in 2009 to go all in on doing what I do now, which is speaking and workshops and coaching and writing and all the other things that I do. It's actually 7 years in say 26 in 2 days. It'll be 7 years. I've been writing every day at the blog.
Oh, wow.
And I made the decision a little bit before that to become a professional speaker and a writer. And I just stepped onto the path, and you just put your head down, you do the work every day, and pretty soon you look up and you're far down the path.
No, wait a minute. 2009, wasn't there a recession going on?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, really a little before that, 2008.
And you grew a business. That's impossible. Is this all fiction?
Yeah. For someone it is. I mean, for me, it's just, in the recession, but I learned a lot in the recession. I mean, that's where you really get to see what you're made of.
Right.
I mean, I had a business that was having an extremely profitable year and then lost almost all of the profit we generated in the first 9 months in the next 3 months. And if it wasn't for knowing that you can go out and competitively displace big customers, you can take things away even in a recession, we wouldn't have done as well as we did. We just hunkered down and we're a sales organization, so we sold.
So say that again. You're saying you realize that you could displace the bigger guys?
In a recession.
Okay.
I mean, that's when people need to move. They need to do something different. And so people are susceptible to change. So we went all in on sales at that point in time. It served us really well.
So are you saying your big competitors in the staffing world weren't able to adjust?
Tougher time to adjust.
Right. Well, I mean, I think big companies have a tough time to adjust, period, right? Because they're big and they have the bureaucratic red tape and the momentum, whereas a family-owned business, y'all can say, hey, it's time to zag when everybody's zigging, and you can make that switch, right?
Yeah, you can. And, ultimately when they have big contracts, national and international contracts locked down, that's their base.
Right.
So anything that's $1 million or $2 million for them, that's up for grabs.
Right.
I mean, I think more salespeople in more small businesses should know. You think the big guys have everything down pat. They're a giant mess. And if you've ever worked for a big company, you find out it's a giant mess.
Yep.
If you think you have problems at a small level, wait till you see the problems at a bigger level. There's just bigger and there's more of them.
Right. So what are some secrets to hiring good salespeople? Because I'm asked this all the time. I try to help people here and there, but, I tell them straight up, it is hard. And everyone is looking for a silver bullet in anything. They want this superstar salesperson, right? They want Zig Ziglar as an adult, but commission only. Good luck with that.
If your plan is commission only, you have one of two situations. One, the people who are going to come and work for you are going to make so much money on commission only that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be furious that you're paying somebody more than you're paying yourself.
Yep.
That's fair. If you're paying commission only because you don't have the money for a sales force, you have the dumbest strategy and the least chance of success of any entrepreneur. You just have to get over it. You're going to invest in sales or you're not. And, right now we live in a weird time because we have all these people who say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. Or they say things like, I'm a serial entrepreneur, which means I never got anything off the ground and got anything started all the way. I just have a lot of ideas. I mean, the thing that they think is that they have to acquire VC money. And VC money is about the dumbest play you can make. I mean, make some money on your own, get some clients, and they say, we need money so that we can see if we have a viable product. Customer will tell you if you have a viable product real quick.
Yeah.
You go up and show up with it, they'll let you know whether it's viable and they're willing to pay for it. Find that out. And if you can do that, scaling, maybe you bring money in, but not at the beginning. It doesn't make any sense to me. So what's the secret? Here's the one secret I have. So this is the best secret I can tell you. The real answer is you're going to have to hire people that you can grow, and you're going to have to be an incredible sales leader to do that. That's the real secret. But if you want one thing, just in the middle of the interview, just say something like this. Wes, I'm really enjoying this. Let's do a cold call. I'm your customer. I answer the phone. I say, hey, Wes, it's Anthony. Go.
Okay.
And if they say, well, if I was making a cold call, what I would do is I would want to know who that person is. And if they start intellectualizing the exercise, they're not going to make the phone calls. If they say, hey, Anthony, this is Wes, and I'm calling today because I want to get on your calendar for a 20-minute meeting. We got 4 big ideas that we were sharing with people like you right now, whether even if you buy from us or not, you're going to be making different decisions in the rest of 2017 and 2018. What do you look like Thursday for a 20-minute meet and greet sometime in the morning? If they're in on the script like that and they don't have any fear about doing it with you, probably a good shot. If they intellectualize it and they start talking about, well, if I was going to cold call, nope, they're not going to cold call. That's been my experience. Right. The people who are not afraid of it, they're in. And for me, it doesn't even matter what they say. It doesn't even matter. The fact that they think they're supposed to say something, I'm pretty happy with.
Right. But, okay, there's always a but, man. We're going into 2017. Cold calling is dead. Haven't you heard that?
I have. In fact, I just put a video together where we actually have a tombstone from 1876 to 2016. Cold calling was alive and now it's dead. I don't know. It's really. I was watching a LinkedIn discussion go on, and somebody said that executives in new companies, especially young guys, aren't going to have a phone on their desk. And I'm like, look, no one's phone is more than 3 feet away from them at any time. Right. I mean, the phone is not going anywhere. It's more important now than it was then.
Right.
And his response was, there's companies like Google and there's a lot of tech companies where they don't have phones on their desk and phone numbers. What percentage of companies is that true for?
Yeah.
0.5%? Right. I mean, I'm exaggerating going 0.5%. Why would you pretend that because something might happen in the future that you shouldn't do what you need to do to succeed now?
Right.
When does it ever make sense to say, because something might happen in the future, I should stop doing what I'm doing right now? The phone still works. Everybody's still got a phone on their desk. When it's a cellular phone, we're going to have the ability to get a hold of them there. We're already texting clients. I have clients who don't want to talk to me unless it's over Skype like you and I are now. I mean, so of course the medium's going to change. What does that mean for us? You're supposed to stop doing the one thing that gets you to speed to revenue and speed to results faster than anything else?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So the people who say that are charlatans, snake oil salesmen, and hucksters selling some product that tells you don't have to do what you really have to do. It's like 1 minute abs or something like that. You're buying a 1 minute abs program. You need to pick up the phone. You need to have every tool in your arsenal. Anybody that says otherwise is selling you snake oil. And you just need to buckle down and learn to do the work that you need to do to take care of yourself, your company, and your family.
What's your theory on voicemail?
What do you mean? Leaving a message?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always leave a message.
Do you leave the same message? Do you have a series? Kind of tell a story?
A series, yeah, but I tend to leave a lot of the same messages. I think it's a good idea. If you call somebody and they're not there, I mean, would you go up and knock on the door and then run? And then the person opens the door, you're not there, you're not there, you're not there, and then you're like, surprise, it was me the whole time. Why wouldn't you just leave the message so they know you're pursuing them? And somebody says, well, I would rather just wait till I get them on the phone. Then that's the first time they ever heard your voice.
Right.
I have a story in the book. I literally called a guy 76 weeks in a row, and I got his business on the 76th call. He said, I have orders, drive out, I'll give them to you now. He wasn't happy that I called him again, but he did tell me to come, and I picked up orders. The company was called LCI Communications, right on the outer belt of Columbus, and I knew they were a big user of staffing, and I continued to call, and I continued to leave a message every time. I want them to know.
I guess the qualifier there is, did you have like a Chet Holmes sort of Dream 100? Like you knew that was a big targeted account, right? I mean, you wouldn't necessarily call the local laundromat with 3 people 76 times, right?
I would call them probably 0 times.
Okay.
Unless I do something different. Yeah, I call them dream clients, and I like the number 60. because it's 15 a week times 4 weeks, which means you make 3 calls a day, followed up by 3 voicemails, followed up by 3 emails, and you can manage that and still prospect.
Right. Well, but isn't that considered prospecting?
It is, except you want to make sure that you're spending your time on the highest value activities, because time is the one finite, non-renewable resource any of us have. So once you've used it, you can't get it back.
Right.
So if it's the most important targets, the most important prospects in your territory, you got to put your time against that first, and then you can go into lower value prospects.
Right. And so would you call more than that? I mean, because that seems like a little bit of a low number, but it is certainly manageable. So I guess that would take away anybody's argument that that's too much.
What do you mean? Would I call more than once a month?
No. So you were saying. So tell me that again.
60.
It was a dream 60. So it was 3.
15 by 4.
15
so
by
that's
4.
That's 3 calls a day. You call 15 a week.
Okay.
Some people need more than that.
Right.
Some people may need fewer, depending on what their market is. I like the number because it's easy to manage.
Yep.
And it's easy to say, I've got these and I'm going to stay focused
right.
on what I know I want. And you know what? The experience that I have, Wes, is that given enough energy and effort against any obstacle or goal over a long enough period of time, the obstacle yields. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's been my experience. It's just, are you willing to persist and just chip away at the stone long enough that it cracks? Right. And if you are, you get the rewards. And if you're not willing to persist, you don't get that reward.
Can't I just hit them up on Snapchat?
I think so. A lot of B2B or commerce going on in Snapchat right now. There's no doubt. Multi-million-dollar deals happening on the Snapchat.
Come on now. Oh, my gosh. But you did mention...
It's going to be a good B2C play.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And the 18 to 25-year-old segment?
For as long as, this is the thing about kids. I've got a bunch of kids. I mean, they move on to the next thing. Right. I've got twin daughters. They're 17 right now. And if at one point, the only thing that mattered on earth was one direction. And I told them, in a couple of years, you're going to be embarrassed by that fact, and I'm going to use it against you all the time. And now they would never say the words one direction. I mean, because they outgrow it, right? And so what's useful when you're 16 and 17 and 18 starts to not be so interesting when you're 25. Right. And for all the talk about the millennials, they make less money than their parents made at the same age. Right. And at some point, they're going to decide that they would like to have a place of their own. And they would like to have a wife and kids, and they're going to want to pay for college and the things that every generation eventually caves in. Hillary Clinton, that generation, they're not protesting in the streets anymore over wars. Right. They're in power now, they're in business, and they're grown-ups. It happens.
Right. You thought you had taken it down, but I did find your MySpace page, and you did a pretty good cover of Justin Timberlake. So
I wish I could cover Timberlake.
I will link to that. So.
I can still cover Bon Scott.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, that's my speed.
So in your 15 by 4, you did mention multimedia, which I like. Because you mentioned phone calls, you mentioned emails. Is it all fair game? I mean, will you hit somebody up on LinkedIn or, things like that?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. You don't know what channel they're going to respond to.
Sure.
You don't know. LinkedIn is a good channel.
Right.
It's becoming very spammy, but it was a better channel before everybody started using InMail like they're using it now. But it's still useful.
Somebody just last week posted on Facebook. They said, in the last year, have you purchased anything from a cold call?
Jack Kawasaki, yeah.
Was it Jack?
Yeah, it was Jack.
Okay. And most people said no.
Most people.
Right.
Okay, so hang on.
I did. I bought something over... But, we're salespeople. Salespeople are suckers. We're the easiest ones to close.
but when you do a survey, I mean, the sample matters,
that was
right?
scientifically valid, man. Don't tell me that was bias from a bunch of people hanging out on Facebook on the week of Christmas. Come on.
So if your audience is primarily people who work in social selling, who are not running a B2B business, don't have a budget to buy things in the millions of dollars, I'm going to say you may not get an accurate reading of what the B2B market is like. You may not. What's interesting about that to me is, as somebody who owns businesses, I don't get phone calls anymore.
Right.
And I take every phone call I get. And the last good phone call I got, giving props to Kyle at Sales Loft, one of his people cold called me and was relentless on the phone. She did a great job. I'm not a prospect for them. And I told her that, but she persisted anyway. That's the last call I've gotten. I mean, the phones aren't ringing anymore, even with people who have budgets and decision-making authority. That's the one thing you've got going for you if you're listening to this. If you pick up the phone and start calling, you're going to be in a very, very small group of people now.
Right. All right, so you said something interesting there. You said, you weren't a prospect, but she persisted anyway.
Yeah.
Where do you draw that line? Like if you're training somebody, where do you draw that line between persistent versus pushy?
Yeah, it can't be pushy. She persisted professionally.
Okay.
And she wanted a demo very badly.
Okay.
And I didn't want a demo. And I know Kyle and I know Sales Loft. I know their product. So, but she did a great job.
Okay.
I told her, tell your boss. I said, you did a great job. And I'm still not a prospect, but she did do a really good job, and good for them picking up the phone, making calls.
What are your thoughts on demos? Are they a vital part of a sale? Are they needed? Are they overrated?
Right now, we're really, really confused about that. I mean, we think that this is my opinion, and I have a structure, a framework called Level 4 value creation. Level 1 is good product. Level 2 is experience. Level 3 is ROI, and Level 4 is strategic. Coming in with the product, you're coming in at the very lowest level of value. And what you're doing as a salesperson is you're hoping that the product carries enough value that it wins by itself.
Right.
And that's going to make you undifferentiated and commoditized. And it's also going to make people not have another meeting with you. So I think that we get it backwards still. And I think that there's a good reason to have some prompts to show people something like, you know how you can't do this thing? You can now do that. That's an interesting conversation to have, and a demo could facilitate that. I still think you need to have a real conversation, but what I see, and you may see too, this idea of SDRs and BDRs and every other acronym you can think of, if the only value you create on a sales call is to qualify me and find out if I have a budget and authority and a need and a time-based decision, you're not creating value for me. You're creating value for you and for your company, so you can pass this along to another rep who then is going to start actually trying to create value for me after you've done a demo and you've qualified me. I don't think that's a great strategy. It needs to be rethought.
Yeah, I agree. It's like my son is a busser at P.F. Chang, and so we go eat, and I see this happening because the waitress gets all the money. Right, but it's like the hostess will seat us and maybe even bring us our drinks if everybody's busy. The busser may come and refill things. The waitress comes, oh, I see you already got your drinks. Would you like anything else? Yeah, you like an appetizer. So they go place the order for the appetizer. The busser comes back, refills drinks. They come back. She takes our order, goes back in. Some other waiter or busser, or they call them expressors or something like that, will bring the food. She'll check up on us one more time. The busser comes 18 more times, and then she comes and gets our check, but she gets all the money. And then they bring your plates out, right? Like, oh, who had the chicken? I'm like, I don't want to answer any more questions. I ordered my food. You should bring me the food I ordered and place it in front of me in a timely manner. But so it's just like, what do you call them? BDRs, SDRs. They have all these acronyms. It's like, oh my gosh.
Got to create value. You got to create enough value to be worth anybody's time or attention now.
Yeah, exactly. So how can that be done today? I mean, has it changed over time, or is it still the fundamentals and people have just kind of forgotten the fundamentals?
You need to have insight. You need to have the ability to have a conversation around value. And it means probably my first conversation as an SDR is to call you as the account exec or BDR or whatever your title is going to be and just say, listen, Wes, you're going to be really pissed off at me, but you're going to have to get over it really fast because here's the deal. I can't call a client and not create value for them and try to withhold that and then hand them off to you successfully because they're not going to show up for the meeting. I'll give you a really good handoff and I'll tell you, listen, this is what I covered with them in discovery. You can validate all of that. You can expand on it when I hand it over to you. But I need to do enough value creating that I can actually get them on the hook. Otherwise, I got nothing to hand over. You cool with that?
Yeah, but you know what? The AEs, whatever they want to call themselves, that's not their call. That's management. I mean, I work with companies like that, and they have all these levels, and everybody's frustrated, and including the prospect.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what? If you have to decide who do you want mad at you, let it be the AE. I mean, why have the client say, Wes, you're wasting my time?
Right.
You know, why do that?
Yep.
Why not have enough respect for the client that you say, I'm going to do value creating up to this point and make sure that they're really, really interested in what we do and that I get them on the hook. And then we'll bring in team members after that. Mm-hmm. It's important.
Oh, I agree. And, I remember years ago I was in a tech firm, and that's when I started selling out here in California. And I was with a startup, and we were going against the incumbent, and we were 3 times more money, but there was a positive ROI for the right customer. And this new VP comes and tells me, you're not doing enough demos. And I was like, I'm one of 33. I'm 3 of 33 guys in the world that made my quota last year, and I haven't given a demo in 18 months.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, continue as you were.
The product doesn't do the work for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that people have to get over. And the worst part about having a really good product is that you're not Steve Jobs, and you're not going to stand up on stage with a bunch of fans who love your product and are waiting to buy the next version of it. That's not going to happen for you.
Right.
You want the product to do all the work. You have to do all the work. So you come in from the other side. You come in from strategic. How do I help these people get better business outcomes that they want? What should they be concerned about? What would help them move their business forward? Now you're interesting. You come in and you say, I got a product to demo. You're either going to be low in the organization or you're going to bore everybody to tears. They're not going to show up for your meeting.
Right. So does bullying executive assistants work better now than it did back in the 90s?
Let me see. I got to think if I have any experience. No, it did. I mean, what I learned to do was get them to give up on me. And,
executive assistant?
Yeah. I was relentless enough that they gave up on me and passed me through. I would not recommend this strategy at all because the recovery from taking that big of a deposit out of a relationship that you don't have is very difficult.
Right.
Which is why I don't like to share that story, because I succeeded in spite of myself, not because of what I did.
Absolutely.
We've all won deals like that, though, right? You've won deals that you had no business winning because it went your way.
But you know what? Yeah, but it is because I showed up, right?
Yeah.
It didn't it didn't track me down in the club, at 1 a.m. on a Thursday night. It landed in my lap because I plowed through the door and was sitting in the lobby or sitting outside the office waiting for it, because, I got up and I told the story recently, but, that high tech I was talking about, I got a job there after I got laid off from the previous high tech that went out of business while I was still within my 6-week pay or whatever, because the president of the former company became the CEO of the next company, and he knew my stories of plowing through doors. And that's what he needed. Right? He needed a hunter. And so,
everybody still needs a hunter. Yeah.
I mean, if you do nothing else, right, go break some china in the gift shop, right? I mean, it's at least you're doing something other than nothing, The
thing about sales and business generally that makes younger people uncomfortable for some reason, and maybe it's because they're younger, there's conflict and there's friction. There's always conflict and friction. We're having a conversation about value. People are going to ask you to justify the delta in your price. They're going to tell you they need you to do more. I mean, these things are just going to happen. And I think right now, I wrote a post a month ago, maybe, of the wussification of the American salesperson. We're wussifying them, and we're telling them that they can wait for inbound, that they don't have to deal with conflict, that they don't have to ask for commitments. I see people saying things like, you should never have to ask your client to buy, because if you do everything right, they'll ask you if they can buy from you.
Well,
that's not true. That's not true.
I don't know. I don't totally disagree with that.
You think you should wait until they say the words, Wes?
No.
Can I finally please buy from you?
No.
You keep showing up in my office not saying anything.
No. But when you really are doing it right. Now, That's when you own the whole process, right? You own your own business. I own my own business.
Right.
I do create inbound marketing and inbound sales. And
Me too.
You probably create it too. I mean, you have a lot of content. People are finding you.
True.
But most people are not us. They don't own the whole process. So the caveat is, if you're an entrepreneur, you're in control of everything, blah, blah, blah. If you truly have mastered the whole flow, then yes, people will call you. Maybe you do a free demo or a free consultation. Blah, it goes very well. And people will ask me, Wes, how do we begin? What's the next steps? You know, I like what I'm hearing. What do you recommend? That's my goal, right? Ideally. Now, that's not 100% of my deals. But I do strive for that. You know, so again, that being said, yes, salespeople got to make things happen, because typically we're only a cog in the wheel, right? We're one of an 87-step process.
Even as an owner, you know, I want to control the process. I can't control the outcome necessarily, but I can control the process. But even that said, I mean, some people do say, what would we do as next steps? They say that. But ultimately, that's not their responsibility to do that. If they do that, it's because I've done everything right. If closing is easy for you, it's just because you were a good salesperson, you make it easy to buy, like you should.
Yes.
That's not true for a lot of people, but that's what really happens. If you do everything right, asking is easy.
Right.
If you skipped over steps, you didn't take care of people along the way, asking is really difficult.
Right.
And that's why they're afraid of it. It's because they haven't done the work. And so they try to find other tactical ways to get people to buy rather than just asking them.
Right. Amen. So are decision makers harder to reach now, have you found? Or I think I'll know the answer based on what you said before, because I'm the same way. My phone's not ringing. So are you experiencing that? Are you seeing like your clients experiencing that? Hey, it's actually easier to reach a decision maker now? Or is it still kind of the same roadblocks we've always had?
I think easier to reach people, sometimes more difficult to get the commitment for time, that first meeting, because the test is, are you going to waste my time?
Yep.
And you have to have something that says, look, I'm coming in from strategic. I'm not coming in from product. At least the higher up in an organization you move. If you say, I'd like to stop by and introduce myself and my services and learn a little bit about your business, that still works sometimes. But what you're saying is, I don't really have anything valuable to offer you. I'm going to tell you about my company, and I'm going to ask you questions that I probably should have known before I sat down across from you. That's an easy no for a lot of people now. And so that's the part where salespeople, what they've been taught to do isn't working. So you have to have something better than that now. So that part I think is more difficult. In fact, I think the commitment for time on a list of dream clients is a more difficult commitment to obtain than the commitment to buy after you get the commitment for time. Yeah, I think it's harder to get the appointment than getting through the process and getting to yes.
Yeah. I mean, I always teach that. I mean, you're not really making a sale on the phone insofar as monetary sale. You're selling the appointment.
Right.
Right.
I'm laughing at that because I've had this conversation with someone recently. And you talked about Jack's Facebook post, like, have you bought anything? Nobody's trying to sell you anything over the phone.
No.
We're not calling to ask you to buy. We're calling to ask you to give us time.
Right.
And so how many people said yes to time? A lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
I only have about 50 million reasons to believe that cold calling still works, but that's just me.
I do get calls from these merchant account processors. We're going to be in the area, and we'll do a free evaluation of your merchant account fees. I do get those far too.
And you're like, you want to come to my house? And then they're like, not really. No, we were hoping you had more transactions than that.
Yeah. Well, I let them come, and I let my dog eat them, so then they stop calling. All right, man. Well, this has been very informative. One of the questions I like to end with is, imagine our listeners are on a plane, they're on a train. Although trains, they would have cell service. So they're on a plane, they're jogging, they're listening to this while they're exercising. They can't do anything right this second. But as soon as they get to their desk, what should they implement? As a result of listening to this, what should they do to improve their sales career, improve their sales results? Should they go to your website? Do you have a free tool? Should they get better with goal planning? Should they create their own 15 by 3? Parting words. What would you say? Go do this, and it'll make a difference for you. This
would be the one thing I would say for any salesperson listening. you should do this. If you're a sales leader, you should arm your team to do this. Go find the 4 or 5 biggest trends that are impacting your prospective client's business. Before you make that dream client list of 60, go and figure out what are those big trends, and then go deep on understanding why should they be compelled to change. Why should they be compelled to change right now, and start making the case for change. If you want to make selling easy and you want to be relevant and you want to be strategic, the question you answer is not what does your product do and can I see a demo? That's not the question you need to answer. The question is, why should I do something different than what I'm doing now when we've had a recession, we still have post-traumatic recessionary stress disorder, people are scared to death of moving. Answer that question for them and you'll be relevant. That's the most important thing to do.
Right. Okay. Very nice. Anthony Iannarino, right?
You got it.
TheSalesBlog.com. I'll link to you on Twitter as well because people will probably misspell it. But your book is available right now as well, right? On Amazon, from your website, the only sales guide you'll ever need. So all the way from Westerville, Ohio, man. Thanks for being a guest on the Sales Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a great day. What do you think about them apples, huh? USA Today bestseller, Self-Discipline, How to Keep Your Commitments to Yourself and Others, Accountability, How to Own the Outcomes You Sell, Competitiveness, How to Embrace Competition Rather Than Let It Intimidate You, Resourcefulness, How to Blend Your Imagination, Experience, and Knowledge into Unique Solutions, Storytelling, How to Create Deeper Relationships by Presenting a Story in which the client is the hero and you're their guide. I always say, we, as the salespeople, are in charge of structure. The prospect is in charge of content. Diagnosing, how to look below the surface to figure out someone else's real challenges and needs. You must always ask why 3 or 4 or 5 times to get to the heart of the matter. Prospects are both keeping up their guard. They don't want to let you in because they've been burned before. They don't want to be taken advantage of. But they also don't know the true extent and the ramifications of their issues. If they truly understood, they would have already solved it. My neighbor she had a heart attack. She was a smoker. Okay, if she knew that she was about to have a heart attack, she would have gone in preemptively and gotten things looked at, cleared up, blah, blah, blah. She would have quit smoking before that. She didn't understand truly the extent and the ramifications of her ignoring her health. Now she's very aware of it. Now she's getting in shape. Now she's eating right. Now she quit smoking. Okay, your clients are the same way. Maybe it's not heart attack level seriousness, but if their business is about to die, they're going to feel like they had a heart attack. Okay, if they're going to lose a big sale, if they're going to lose an edge, if they're going to lose market share, if it's going to force them to lay people off, they're going to feel like they're dying. Okay, so you've got to diagnose. Our job is hurt and rescue as salespeople. We must be willing, ready, and able to be in the presence of uncomfortable prospects. And we must be ready, willing, and able to make them uncomfortable with the questions that we ask. Okay, it's not awkward questions like airplane. You ever been in a Turkish prison? No. It's questions about their business that they're uncomfortable answering or they don't know the answer to, which makes them uncomfortable. That's why you're talking with them. Your job is to ask questions they can't answer, and they will assume, rightly so, that you have a solution for them that'll take away that pain, that'll scratch that itch. Okay? And you never know what type of silver lining is in that cloud, right? Anthony had a grand mal seizure. I mean, good grief. You think, that's terrible, right? Can't drive. But he found that silver lining. Zig Ziglar tells a story about a lady that she broke her leg, way back in the day. It might have been, 60s or 70s. And she hired a driver. And she kept hitting her numbers, kept growing. She was going to get it done. She broke her leg, I don't know, some big hip, all the way up to the hip cast kind of thing. Couldn't drive, couldn't step on the gas. She made it happen anyway. So, I had Max Ivy on before, the blind blogger. So this guy's blind. He has a blog. So whatever adversity you're facing, there's somebody out there that has done the same thing and overcome it. I had Monica Cora on before. She was taken from in front of a fraternity house in Dallas, SMU, and was gang raped and thrown out into the December night, essentially naked. She faced her accusers. Now she's written a book about it. They're in jail, and she's free. Okay, she overcame it. So, we all have adversity. Things are going on. Overcome it. Okay, there is a silver lining. It may be a thin lining. It may be way deep down, but it's there. Okay, and Anthony turned that thing around. So he's full of advice, like I was saying. Now he writes every day. When you understand how to interact with people, how to hire people, right? He says, hire people you can grow. When you understand how people think and act, like I loved his scenario on, hey, let's go do a cold call. Let's go. How do they react? Do they over-conceptualize, over-intellectualize, or do they jump in and attack? When you're looking for a meat eater, a hunter, that's what you're looking for in a salesperson, that type of reaction. I love him talking about the phone. The phone, we're never more than 3 feet away from our phone. People are afraid to use it. I publish my cell phone number. I hardly get a call. Now, when I do, I hardly ever answer it unless I know who's calling on an expected appointment. But people don't leave a message, or they don't leave a good message. I love his story about calling 76 weeks in a row. Okay? So do what your competition is not doing. You always hear zig when they zag. Well, here's the time to zag. Pick up the phone. Are you really willing to zig when they zag? I don't know. I don't see too many people that are. You're listening to this, though, so it tells me you're special. You're different. That's good. That's why I always end the podcast with sell different. Okay? Be different. And then finally, go find the biggest trends impacting your client. So that was towards the end. And that's how I opened talking about that book, Pendulum, knowing what trends are coming. Roy even opens with that, with a trend, and I'll let you read it in the book, and I'll cover it more over the next couple of episodes. But, skate where the puck is going. Sell where the puck is going, right? Sell where the trend is going. And where's the sales development trend going for you right now until Valentine's Day? The trend is your friend. Go to makeeverysale.com, enter promo code podcast, and save exactly $1,000. $1,000! It gives you lifetime access to the material, lifetime access to the Make Every Sale content, as well as the better prospecting system, the 7 deadly sins of selling. And anytime I do the art of the close, you'll be included. Those are always 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 or 9 live, interactive, recorded calls. You'll get access to those recordings and to our private group where you can get daily support from myself and the fellow members. I don't know how else to help you mow better than that. Okay, makeeverysale.com. And then finally, I mentioned last couple of episodes, I've got a sponsor, VA Staffer. I'm using Jay and his team. I've known them. This isn't just somebody that contacted me and threw me money. This is somebody I worked with. I actually give them money, right? And then I've referred people, and then they've given me money back because I use them and I like them. So if I'm mentioning them, they've passed the sniff test. But they're offering 4 free hours of support. Okay, and then $100 off if you decide to use them. So head on over to thesaleswhisperer.com/VA Staffer. So that's virtual assistant, VA Staffer. And that will forward you to a special landing page he made, and they will take care of you. Okay? Thanks for listening. Please leave a comment. Please leave a 5-star review. Please share this episode. Invite a friend to listen. And as always, remember to sell different.